Hello and welcome to another episode of the Amenorrhea Fertility Diaries. In this channel I will be speaking about health, about nutrition, about fertility, about the menstrual cycle, and more specifically about the absence of the menstrual cycle due to a condition called hypothalamic amenorrhea. Hypothalamic amenorrhea is when a normally menstruating woman loses her cycle for more than 3 consecutive months, and it's attributed to reasons of stress, over-exercising, and under-eating. You don't need to be heavily underweight to lose your menstrual cycle, as we've spoken about many times in my channel before, but it's very, very common for elite athletes and models and women that are into exercise or very fanatically into exercise and that have a low BMI. It's very, very probable that you will lose your menstrual cycle at a certain point. Although this channel is kind of also trying to reach people like me that lost their menstrual cycle without being elite athletes and without being in a low BMI. My BMI is completely normal, and it was completely normal when I lost my menstrual cycle. There is, though, generally a tendency in these females who lose their menstrual cycle, whatever your BMI is, there is generally the tendency of being quite obsessed by exercise, not necessarily an athlete, but exercising, let's say like more than 6 hours or 7 hours per week of intense exercise, and there's generally a big concern about eating clean, eating healthy, and whatever that is for each of you. Also, one of the big motivations for this channel to do this for myself was when I was having HA. I was really looking into these kind of videos of other girls, other females telling their stories, because there is a big uncertainty in the medical world about this condition. So I've done videos before explaining my story. I invite you to look at them so that you can follow everything that I'm saying. But yeah, the first 2 doctors that I visited, who were gynecologists and endocrines, they looked at me and they directly said that it's impossible that I had hypothalamic amenorrhea. Then finally I found one who did know a little bit more about this and who had studied a bit further than when he studied back in the 80s. So metabolically informed doctor is what you will need to be able to diagnose this. Anyway, there is a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of unknown things about this, so I wanted to give my story to a lot of women out there trying to help you to recover your menstrual cycle in a natural way, so without using medication, because actually this is the only real way to be able to heal from HA. HA is the shortage of hypothalamic amenorrhea, and it's always a reversible condition. So before, you have to make sure that you have HA, because you could be losing your cycle due to other conditions. I've done videos before, for example, PCOS, hypothyroidism, etc., etc. So once you know that you have HA, then I invite you to look at these videos, and I hope that this is very helpful for all of you. In this episode, I'm going to speak about what I ate in a day when I was recovering from HA. What I ate in a day when I really made the switch that my biggest goal on this moment in life would be to regain my cycle back. This took me a while because I was for a long time stuck in what we call quasi recovery. So for like a year and a half, I was really researching, I was looking into this, but I was actually trying to find the proof that I wouldn't need to increase my calories and decrease my exercise in order to regain my cycle. So I looked all the internet, read every single article that there is about HA. I spoke with all the experts that I could find, trying to find the one person who would tell me that I could continue eating the little calories that I was eating and exercising the way I was doing and fasting the way I was doing, because I was completely 100% convinced that that was the idea of health, that was the picture of health, because I read it and I saw it and all these podcasts that I was listening to and everything. So I really had to make the switch that for me on this moment, that was not the ideal picture of health. And once I did the switch and I decided to go all in, increase the calories, stop the exercise or decrease the exercise, then I focused on having this eating pattern that I'm going to give you right now. And I told myself that for 2 months I would not get out of this eating pattern, no matter what thoughts came into my head, what fears came into my head, because I was really, really scared of gaining weight and losing my physical shape and not being fit anymore. It was all part of my identity, you know. I'm sure you relate to this, a lot of you listening out there. But when I really decided to not listen to any of these thoughts and just continue doing what I planned to do, it took me about 3 months to recover my cycle, so it wasn't that long. So I'm going to give you what I ate in a day during amenorrhea recovery. And let's go into the episode, but just before that, a small disclaimer. Well, I'm not a doctor, that you know. I'm doing a study about nutrition, about becoming a HA coach, which haven't finished now, but and I'm just a fanatic about this, about health, about science, and I've researched a lot, so I'm just sharing my knowledge and my experience. I also managed to recover my cycle naturally, so that's my motivation for this channel. But then another thing I want to say, if you're really, really suffering from a huge eating disorder such as anorexia, bulimia, you have a very low BMI, like below 18, and you have, well, you feel triggered by these kind of by comments, by deliberate weight loss comments, etc., then maybe this is not the video for you to watch, because I'm gonna speak very openly and with full transparency about my previous eating patterns, when I was recovering from HA, and also my own vision of how you can recover from HA if you weren't in a very low BMI from the beginning, which does include acceptance of certain practices such as, excluding certain types of foods and a little bit of fasting protocols, etc. So after this, let's dig into the content. So before giving you the full picture of what I used to eat in a day when I was recovering from HA, I want to touch on 5 important principles. Before that, I think it's very important that we establish them clearly. First of all, everyone is different. I know it's very repetitive, but when you publish mass content like I'm doing, it's very important to remember this point, because actually, there's almost no point on doing this, because in the end you're going to have to find out your own way of what is healthy for you. So as I always say, try to really get in touch with your inner self and feel inside of you. The truth is really in you guys, all of you, in your heart. So when you get rid of distractions and you find a moment of connection with yourself, if you've been watching my videos, other videos, if you've been doing the research, you need to develop that curiosity first, that's for sure. If you are aware of all these parameters, then you will finally find the truth in yourself of exactly which measures you can apply to yourself. So this is just like an example and like an inspiration to show you a little bit how my path of recovery was. And I'm sure you can take out a lot of useful information, but in the end, as I said, everybody is completely different. How are we different? We're different genetically. So the one girl can have a very low BMI, not lose her menstrual cycle. The other girl will lose it with any little change that she does on her diet or exercise pattern. So you have to experiment and be very, very aware. And this is the beautiful thing about having HA, which there is one little pro of it, is that you will get very, very knowledgeable about yourself and about your inner self and how you work and what you can stand and what your limits are. So you need to have this curiosity, this awakened mentality, and you need to experiment and try out what you can do, what you can't do, and what your body needs. Also, another thing is that when you've come from this diet world and diet mentality, and actually a lot of the fitness and health influencers and experts out there are trying to give us parameters that we should follow, and they're trying to give us rules that we all should follow. But I think there's a big danger of this, and it's that, well, they kind of skip this rule that everybody is different. So what for one person could be healthy is not necessarily healthy for the other person. So when your body is really, really telling you very clearly that it doesn't like whatever you're doing, because you feel lethargic, because you feel bad, because you have brain fog, because you cannot get through the day and do your daily tasks, then it means that you probably should reorient and check what are you doing and change your behavior, because your body is meant to feel energized, it's meant to feel good, it's meant to feel okay, other than the little stress and ups and downs of normal life, of course. So I really come from a background of intermittent fasting, low carb, keto diets. I was so into this. I was following all these super intelligent, nice people that are giving all this content, and which I still admire a lot. But I was trying to muscle through the protocols that they would give me, and I would feel terrible. I would feel lethargic. Fasting, I've always wanted to do fasting. I always wanted to be able to be a week without eating, but I could never do it. I just could never do it because my body would it was too much for me. And now I understand that maybe that is great for one person, but for the other person, especially for someone who has hypothalamic amenorrhea, it means that you have a deficit of energy. So to put your body through this kind of stress, it's really not what you should be doing right now. So be a bit aware of this and really listen to your body. That's I can't say that enough. So specifically me, just so you get a reference, I'm going to give you the number of calories that I would consume and the kind of diet that I would do. But I'm a very tall person. I am almost 1.80 meters, so that's very tall for a woman. And I weigh right now, I don't know, I ditched my scale, but around a little bit below 70 kilograms. So my BMI, well, more like 68. My BMI is right now in 22, which, as I said, it's completely in the middle of the normal range. So it's not too much, not too little. And when I lost my cycle, I was only 2-3 kilo less than now. So it was not that much weight that I had to gain. But I think it was more about the regularity of the meals and also including certain carbs certain macros that I used to exclude, such as carbs. So that just to give you an idea, if you come from a BMI that is much lower, then maybe you will have to adjust your calorie intake a little bit and even increase it a little bit. If you are in a quite normal, healthy BMI, then maybe you could do it a bit more gradually. But then you also have to see what you can do, because if you come from very heavily under eating, maybe it's impossible for you to eat that many calories in one time, so you should increase gradually. So just find your own way, basically. It makes no sense that I give you all kinds of recipes if in the end you need to find out what works for you, and then don't think of all of nothing. I know we're all high achievers here and we want to recover our cycle. It's like our mission and our goal right now, but it's all about letting go a little bit and taking it easy and not thinking that black and white, because that black and white mentality leads you to unhappiness and to giving up, right? Okay, so my second point is, before on the first point, I want to add that your lifestyle is super important. So I always used to think that I was a sedentary person because I work in an office, but actually I realized it's not true. I used to want to try to fast the whole day, because I was looking at these influencers who said yeah, you can fast when you're working because then you're distracted, and we're all sedentary people. Basically they were saying if you were not all day out, I don't know, working on the fields or having a very, very active job, they categorized you as a sedentary person. And they said that you would basically be able to fast and everything, but it never works for me. But then I realized that even if I have an office job, in my job we also go out quite a lot, so it's like a combination of office, but it's not really heavy physical activity, but I have to go from one place to the other. I'm always kind of on a tight schedule. I have to really be very sharp and awake for my meetings. I have to manage the situation, give speeches, give introductions. It's kind of this business world, I have to meet new people all the time and be super sharp. I have to look good, I have to be dressed up. So that puts a lot of psychological pressure as well, which is also energy consuming. So suddenly I realized I'm not a sedentary person at all, And then in the evenings I go walking, and in the mornings I go exercising. So it's all but that. So then I realized, okay, I do need more calories. So this was the way for me to understand that I was completely not measuring myself properly. So maybe that's also the case for you. I don't know if you are in the fitness world, then I think you would have to consume many more calories than what I did, for example. But this is just for me. Secondly, I wanted to talk a little bit about my philosophy on HA. I've done a huge video on this, but I just want to see that, for example, I see that there is a lot of content out there now for HA, so that's great. I see on Instagram a lot of coaches, coaches specialized in this and recovering your nutrition, a lot of what I eat in a day from these people. And it's great that it's getting more attention, but I see one big tendency they all base their diets on snacks and on snacking. And I realized, like, I don't know how to give this message, but I think it's super important that we don't focus on snacking, but that our main calories come from whole, one ingredient, natural, unprocessed, and, well, if possible, homemade and home cooked foods. So I'm not against snacks, and they always promote these healthy snacks like for example protein bowls or peanut butter. It's super popular now. I don't know what happened. It's like a peanut butter craze out there, and nut butters, which are delicious. I mean, I love it so much that I cannot even have it at home, because otherwise I will just eat the whole pot. I've spoken about this before, about my peanut butter addiction. I don't know what there is in it that I like so much. Well, I do know what there is in it. It's a highly palatable food, and it is, even though they say it's not a processed food, it is quite processed. I mean, you have to like completely grind the peanuts until it becomes this emulsion of oil. You would never be able to eat that quantity of peanuts like this, I mean, that you need for 1 spoon of peanut butter. So it is quite processed. I would really recommend you to eat the peanuts instead, and if possible with the shells, that you have to go through the work of peeling them, and then you will be eating in a rhythm, in a pace that your body can absorb the nutrients, and it's how it was meant to be in nature. The same happens with fruits, fruit juices, and all of that. I always say, like, eat the whole fruit, don't eat the fruit juice, because you're extracting something from a natural, beautiful product that is meant for you to eat with the fiber of it, so that you can absorb all the vitamins. So this is all within this philosophy of trying to eat as unprocessed as possible. I also see that we are all like very busy, and we have jobs, and we are in this rushing society. So people try to survive on snacks, on protein bars, and on things that you can take and grab and take with you. But I still advocate for cooking as much as possible home, really trying to make time for it. And eat as much as possible these whole food ingredients. Of course, as always, you can do the 80-20 rule, so that 80% of the time you're eating these whole foods, and 20% of the time you just have a food freedom weekend, as I call it, and just eat whatever you want without even thinking, without counting, without tracking, which is also very important. But also I think it's quite interesting to get into seasonal eating. I think we're completely separated from this way of eating fruits that are in season, local products, but I think there is a reason for everything, and the fact that there is, not a certain type of fruit in a certain type of season, I'm sure it has to do with your immune system, and there is a lot of studies done on that what you need in a certain moment is really connected with what the earth can provide you on that moment. So try to keep it as natural as possible and as seasonal as possible. Organic, organic is great, but organic is also a business. So sometimes if you buy from a small farmer who hasn't got the money to put the organic sticker on the food, it will be more organic than the organic that you can find on a huge supermarket chain, for example. But yeah, if you can eat organic, of course, that's great. But I don't eat always organic. But I do prioritize whole one ingredient foods. I mean by this, fruits, vegetables, eggs, meat, and all of this. So that should be the main basis of your diet. Then, for me, it worked to do 3 square meals. I'm not saying you shouldn't do 4 meals or you shouldn't eat snacks in between them, but I still believe that snacking is not the way to go. I think as much as you can, we cannot be perfect. I understand if you have a very busy job, you can't cook always. You maybe need to take some snacks with you, but then I would recommend to take like more whole food ingredients, like some dates or some fruits or some nuts, like that, not bars, not protein bars and all that, because it's full of other ingredients and processed stuff. So if you cannot even understand what there is on the ingredient list, then I wouldn't eat it. Unless it's really bringing you joy and it's like a one-time occasion and you're just trying to celebrate something, then I would say like food freedom and go ahead. But it shouldn't be the basis of your diet on a daily basis, as I said. So 3 square meals I think works best. Of course, I'm a person with a quite high appetite and I can eat quite big meals. So for me, it's not a problem to consume all my calories in 3 sittings. And well, I live in a country where they really like this lunch culture, so it's nice. We all get a huge lunch break and we can have like proper lunch. I don't know if it's always like that in every country, but still you can always find solutions around it. I think 3 square meals without having to take many more snacks, maybe like a little snack in between you can do, but that would be the ideal thing. Also because when you sit to eat a full meal that you've cooked, if you can share it with someone you love, then wow, that's completely the ideal scenario. And it's important that you take the time for it also. I always try to get into a more relaxed mode before I start eating, so I take 3 deep breaths. I try to be aware of the food. I try to be grateful for the food as well. And then I start eating, and I start eating without any distractions. I really try to enjoy, savor the food, and realize what it's doing for me, where it comes from. If I'm eating an animal, trying to have respect for this animal, I think all of this will help you to develop a more healthy relationship with food and a more gratitude-oriented mindset towards food in a way that it will satisfy you, not only on the physical level, but also on the psychological level. And it will, it will reduce the risk of having problems such as, I don't know, binge eating disorder or other food disorders. So as I said, just summing up, 3 square big meals, full meals is always better than a lot of mini snacks, in my opinion. I still think that your blood sugars can go up and down a lot if you continue snacking all the time. So I see a lot in the HA recovery world that they try to advocate for full food freedom, and they almost try to recommend you or encourage you to eat like a lot of snacks and to get away drop away all the food rules and eat pizza, ice cream, eat in the night, eat whenever you want, eat sugar. But I'm totally not in agreement with this. I think you can recover your cycle on a very healthy way. Maybe you have to increase your quality. Of course, these whole natural good foods you should eat without limit if you're still feeling hungry. But I don't think you need to go into unhealthy snacks and snacking a lot to be able to regain your cycle. On the contrary, I think that might be detrimental to your health in case you're in a normal body weight or even on a low body weight. I don't think it's the healthy way to go. And about macros, 4th point, I always like to balance my macros. As I told you, I come from a background of really being into this low carb way of eating, which has given me a lot of positive things. I'm not advocating for low carb for amenorrhea recovery. As I said, I think that's not the moment to be reducing any of your macros. But on the past, it has helped me really to become much more conscious about what I eat and what I ate. And it also got me into the habit of cooking all my foods. So when you remove all the processed carbs, like breads, pastas, cookies, and all of that, you basically, almost anything you can get in a fast food restaurant or any unhealthy type of processed foods will have these kind of carbs. So you get into the habit of cooking your own food, and you also start eating more healthy automatically, just as a consequence of not eating sandwiches the whole day. So you more have to eat with knife and fork, as I say. So it can have a good effect, but of course now, if you have HA, you should balance your macros. You should eat some carbs as well, nature's carbs. So I love to go and eat fruits, root vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes, all of that. Maybe some grains if you can tolerate them. For me, chickpeas are a bit tough, but for example, lentils work really well. This is something I've introduced to my diet that I wouldn't eat before and that I'm eating now quite regularly. And even though I'm not such a fan of bread because it's a very processed food, like very if possible organic or homemade as possible, sourdough bread can be quite nice. Why sourdough? Because it has the sourness of the sourdough, has a certain acidity that helps you digest all the other nutrients as well, such as the gluten and all of that. So it's a bit more gentle to the body, and it has much more nutrition, much more protein and all of that. Also, I find it delicious. So I'm including those as well. Of course, fats, super important. I've never had a problem with fats. I live in a Mediterranean culture, and we always put loads of olive oil on our salads, avocados, olives. All these healthy fats are great. I love meat with fats, so that's for me never been a problem. But I know that people that maybe grew up like in the 80s, 90s mentality of the Weight Watchers trend, they are fat phobic. But I think if you're a little bit into health and fitness nowadays, you can see that there's a million studies saying that we need those fats, and I mean, anything that is extracting a natural fat from products, such as a skimmed milk or something like that, is not healthy, as I said, because you should eat the product as whole and as unprocessed as possible. So if it has the fat, it means it's there for a reason. And a lot of vitamins as well are fat soluble. So, for example, if you eat only the leaner cuts of meat, or if you extract the fats of all the products, it's very probably that you're not absorbing enough of the vitamins. So fats, don't be afraid of fats. And I still prioritize protein, because protein is super important. It gives your brain the satiety feeling that you need. It's your building block. It will help you build muscle. It will help you build any kind of tissue that you need to do, and it still should be the basis of your diet. It's also very difficult to overdo it with protein, so I always try to have a still quite protein-centered diet without restricting the other carbs. And the fifth principle is that I would remove what I call the toxins. So when I was recovering from HA, I reduced my coffee intake, which is a big thing for me. I'm such a coffee lover, and I'm a coffee addict. I have to admit, I had like huge headaches when I quit drinking coffee. It was horrible. I couldn't do it. I had to do it gradually, like one coffee a day, and then like I was drinking decaf all the time and tea, and I even had to suffer through these headaches. But in the end, I could detox from it, and I kept it like that during the 2-3 months that I was recovering. They say that it increases your cortisol levels, so you're trying to keep that as low as possible. And I said to myself, like, no restriction on foods, but eat only the healthy foods and no toxins. As I said, I also avoided alcohol. I was not super strict on this because I come from a culture, a family, and a place where wine is really much drunk, and I love red wine, I really do. So every now and then I would like break my schedule and have a glass of wine or so, but really trying to keep it to one glass, 2 maximum, and not make it a habit, because I think it still is a hormonal disruptor. So just for these 2 months, for me, it would be a way of like saying, okay, eat whatever you want, but don't drink. Also, in a way, I need some kind of, I know maybe this is not right, because if you're really like restricting a lot, you shouldn't have the feeling that you have to restrict something. But I think for a lot of female out there that are trying to diet, to suddenly tell them that they have to eat all those calories, they can't exercise, and they also can just drink and do whatever they want, it's like too much. You need to have like one food rule. So for me, my rule was no wine and no coffee, and try to have not too much added sugar either, because I still think that's not healthy. So I would eat fruits and all of that without limit, but like no cakes and stuff like that. So just try to keep it very healthy, but without limitation. I hope that's kind of clear. And of course, if you, I don't know, depends on which kind of medication you're taking, but the whole thing is trying to detoxify your body and be as healthy as possible. So if you take any other type of unnecessary drug or medication that you can not take, of course, in consultancy with your doctor, I would maybe suggest to try to leave it for a while. I would also not take painkillers and stuff like that, because I want to let my body be fully naturally for these 2 months. Okay, so those are the 5 principles, and now I'm going to give you a picture of what I used to eat in a day compared to what I would eat after the recovery, or what I would eat normally. And I'm going to speak a little bit about some pros and cons of each way of eating. So on HA recovery, I would wake up at 8 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. Normally I wake up at 7 a.m. because I like to do my big exercise in the morning. I never exercise in the evening. I can't. I'm just too tired. I think it's much better in the morning. I don't know. That's up to you, whatever you prefer. But during HA recovery, I gave myself an extra hour of sleep. So I was sleeping like 9 hours a night, sometimes even a bit more. But I felt I needed it. So I would go to bed at 11, wake up at 8. And I would do directly with my decaf coffee, I would do a little bit of whey protein. Yeah, I do that. I know I said you should eat no processed foods, but I find it difficult to have enough protein, so the protein level that I need. So I would do that to give me a little bit of power. And I, of course, take a very organic version of whey protein, as unprocessed as possible. And then I would do a mini workout, but on a much chill pace and flow than what I would do after recovery or before recovery. So instead of a very hard body pump class with weights of 50 minutes, I would do like a 30-minute gentle Pilates type, yoga type inspired workout where I basically do like some mountain climbers, some push-ups, and some abdominal work, focusing on my breath, maybe some glutes as well, just to keep my muscles and my body in a healthy way, and also to get myself in a right mindset, because otherwise, yeah, well, I really like that. And for my work and everything, I need to move a little bit in the morning. So I don't think that can be harmful in any way, just listening very gently to your body. If I felt like sleeping an extra hour, then I would just skip it and do it. So I was much more flexible with it. After that, I would have a shower, of course, and then big change, I would have breakfast. So I never have breakfast normally. Before recovery, after recovery, it's not my way. I'm not hungry in the morning. I don't think you should eat when you're not hungry. And as I said, I never had a problem eating enough calories because I have a huge appetite and I love to eat and eat out. So for me, I never had to increase it. But during HA, I did make a habit of having breakfast daily. I struggle a long time with this, and I believe for a long time I didn't need it, but I realized that actually the problem was if I didn't have breakfast, I would go to work, and then maybe I would have a meeting, and then maybe another one, and without noticing it, I would be like so many hours going on nothing, so going on an empty stomach. And I think that kind of my body needed to just not have that and be fueled from the first thing in the morning. Again, I think for a lot of people it might be super healthy to not have breakfast, but for me on that moment, or if you're recovering from HA, I would really recommend you to have breakfast. So my breakfast would be around 600 calories, and I'm not from a culture where we eat eggs in the morning. I don't know why. For me, it's very, very difficult and very strange. Where I come from, you eat like toasts or croissant or stuff like that, which I don't think is healthy either, because a lot of carbs in the morning, I still think it will peak your blood sugar, and it's not really what we want. So what I would do is what I call a chia pudding, which I love. I make it the night before, so it's in kefir or in goat yogurt or sheep yogurt, actually, which I like more than cow yogurt, and I think it's also more healthy and more digestible. I soak the chia in it, and then I put some fruits in it, whatever seasonal fruits there is, berries, I love berries, strawberries, blueberries, whatever. And I would put some seeds on it. I've done a whole episode about seed cycling and how seeds are super good for your estrogen levels and all of that. So I would put like this mix of seeds, which is sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, and all of that in. And maybe I would top it off with some cacao nibs that you can buy, these big raw cacao nibs, or some nuts, or even some nut butter if you want to. So this would be my healthy breakfast with some fat in it, and some protein as well from the chia and the nuts. Otherwise, sometimes I would do like some oatmeal, but oatmeal would make me really... I love it, it's delicious, but I will feel like a sugar crash afterwards, so it's not my favorite thing. And sometimes I would have a toast of sourdough bread with something on it, like, I don't know, some butter and cheese, or some avocado is great, or whatever you have. So that would be my breakfast. And then I would go to work. In the times when I'm not in recovery, so the way that I eat normally, I will wait and I will not have breakfast until around 12 a.m. And at 12 a.m. I will bring to my work this chia pudding that I would eat in the morning, and I would eat it then at 12, because more than that I would just faint. So that was that's the difference. It's a lot of organizing, a lot of meal prepping. So I'm like the freak that brings all these Tupperwares to work with my name on it. In the beginning I felt a bit shy about that, but whatever, I just do it now. It's completely my rhythm. I cook on Sunday evenings or on Monday evenings, and I prepare it and I bring it on to my work, and then I have these snacks and foods all the time there. I have, though, become much more flexible with eating out. So when I, before HA recovery or after HA recovery, the way that I would eat normally, I'm more strict about not eating out in the week, because I love to eat out in the weekends with my boyfriend and with my family and all of that. But when I was recovering HA, I would sometimes go out to eat with my colleagues to some of the local restaurants out there. And then I would really let go and just eat whatever I wanted, without counting, without thinking. So if there was quesadillas, I love quesadillas, I would eat quesadillas. I would even eat a hamburger, pizza. I mean, it's kind of a healthy, organic place, so it's not like it's like a no gluten, healthy pizza, whatever, but I would eat whatever I like. I have quite taste for healthy food, so I would also sometimes eat a salad. But mostly I would take my own food, and my own food for lunch is generally a protein-focused lunch with still high protein, high fiber, but without restricting the carbs. So the focus is on the protein, but if there is carbs added or included in it, I will also eat them. While in the past, I would never eat carbs during lunch. I would like really eat only high protein lunch that I would always cook for myself. So some of the examples are my what I call my super omelette, which is an omelette with 3 eggs, spinach, feta cheese, anchovies in it, and then I would put like a nice salad next to it, for example, and sometimes I would bring a little slice of bread if I didn't eat it in the morning. Then another one that I do a lot is salmon and broccoli. And when I was recovering from HA, sometimes I would put a little bit of rice together with it. Again, some kind of carbs. Not always, but like if it was there, I would eat it. Or I would do my super salads. I have all these different recipes of salads in my Instagram if you want to check it out. It's Amenorrhea Fertility Diaries as well. And I mean, when you say salad, it directly sounds like, oh, salad, it's not going to be filling. It's not, it's like super healthy. But I mean, it's like eating fish with vegetables, but all together, you know? So I would do like this high protein salad with, it depends, I do this chicken, avocado, mango salad, for example, with cashew nuts in it and all that. I do this Thai beef salad where I cook like this beef steak and I add it to the salad with mint and with some chili. I do, a burrata salad. You know, I love burrata with tomato and all of that. And I don't always add carbs to it. I don't really need it, but really loads of protein, big portions to be satisfied, you know, also mentally. And just delicious, delicious foods. The good thing about being more flexible with lunch is that I've been able to connect much more with my colleagues. I used to be like always on my own and I never wanted to eat with people. I don't know why, because I was shy that they would comment on my food. So now I'm completely not that. I just go and I eat with them sometimes, which is also important, as I said, connection, oxytocin release. Oxytocin goes up, cortisol goes down, and this is exactly the kind of state we want to create of happiness, which is also important for your body to feel safe enough to ovulate. Then, when I was before recovery or in my normality, I would always eat chocolates, dark chocolates. I love 90% chocolate. It does have a little bit of sugar in it, it's true, but I'm not worried about that. I would eat 2 squares after my lunch and I would eat a coffee in it. But during HA recovery, because I already had a big breakfast and a big lunch with carbs and all of that, and I wasn't eating really coffee, I wouldn't really need the dessert, so I would just wait, and maybe in the afternoon, like at around 4, when I get this afternoon dip, I would eat a little healthy snack, such as some fruit with some nuts maybe, or even I did these homemade cookies with like peanut butter and oats or something like that, or something small just to keep me going, and maybe a cup of herbal tea. And finally, when I would go home, I would have dinner. I still think it's super important to leave enough space between your dinner and your sleeping, because if you go to bed and you're still in full digestion, it will always affect your sleep. No matter what you think and what it tells you, it's like alcohol. People think that they drink and alcohol will help them sleep, but it's on the contrary. It just disrupts your sleep. It gives you the illusion of falling asleep because you kind of almost faint after a huge meal or after drinking, but you're not getting into the REM cycles of sleep that you need. So there's huge studies on this. There's really no controversy on this. And in any kind of health advice that they could give you, they always agree on this one fact: you shouldn't go to sleep with a full stomach. So I always aim to leave 3 hours before finishing my dinner and going to sleep, although this becomes a bit challenging because I sometimes work until late and I'm not home until 7:30. So then I need to have finished my dinner by 8. So I try to not have a big dinner in the weekdays. You know, I really focus on my lunch. My lunch is like, have everything you want, have a dessert, have a snack, whatever. But really the dinner is just like a little final thing. When I come home from working the whole day, I need to have a little something. I just can't just not have anything, but I will have like a nice soup, They also say that carbs and nature's carbs help you calm down because they help releasing serotonin. So my ideal dinner would be like one of the soups that I cook, for example, with cauliflower and potato, and maybe I put a little bit of feta cheese on it and some little nuts on it, and I make it very nice and appealing, so it's a warm, full soup. Or maybe even like a little leftover of the lunch, a little bit of fish and some veggies with it, but something really small. So if my lunch was around 800 calories plus the snack afterwards, about 250 calories, my dinner would be, well, more like 500 calories or something like that. Again, I don't think you should be counting like very strictly, but just to give you an idea. This is during HA recovery. On my normal days after recovery, I would still also want to have like a little dinner, because as I said, I need to have something, but I would really focus on having a not too big one, like as I said, like a soup or something like that. And then ideally, I would go for a walk, just a little walk, a gentle walk. So I call it a meditation walk because I think meditation is so powerful. I think it's super important to include some kind of de-stressing technique into your daily habits to be able to get into this parasympathetic system that I've been talking about in my previous videos, especially if you work a full-time job or if you have any kind of other stressors and you need to de-stress in the end of the night. But I also understand that it can be almost stressful to want to fit in too many things in my schedule. And that was, for me, I always struggled with trying to fit in a meditation moment. It just doesn't flow naturally. I try to do it in the morning, but I'm not in the state for it. So I just realized that I go for a walk. Sometimes I listen to a podcast, but I always, I walk by the beach. Sometimes I have a swim because it's quite hot right now, so it depends on where you live. But I always will sit on a little bench that I have there, and I will breathe and try to get into a very meditative state of mind. And I will look, sometimes I see the sunset, sometimes I see the people walking, and I will take a few minutes to connect with myself. Sometimes I bring a diary and I write a little bit because journaling really helps me. So that's my meditation moment, meditation work. Always after dinner so that I can digest a little bit the food. And then when I come back home, then I'm kind of ready to relax, read a little bit, maybe watch some Netflix and just go to sleep, trying to go at 11 by night. So that's my schedule. I hope it was clear what I did before, what I did after recovering. I would always recommend you to, well, they say you should wait 3 menstrual cycles before you can call yourself a recovered person. But I would suggest maybe to wait a bit longer, to wait like 6 or about 5 or 6 menstrual cycles, regular menstrual cycles, before starting to introduce again more exercise and starting to get back to your previous routine. Maybe you should never get back to your previous routine. It depends on your body. As I said, you have to listen to your body. And I hope this was helpful. I hope this helped you connect to your body. And as I always say, the truth is inside of you. So just get into a deep relaxation mode and try to listen to yourself. And otherwise, give me some comments. I will always reply, and I love to hear your comments. Subscribe, please. It would help me a lot. It would be great to see more subscriptions out there. And as always, until next time, my friends, be healthy and be happy.